Hey, welcome back to my channel, Cerius Slack with Cerius Blaq. I am your host, CB, and today I'm here to do another interview, and I have a very cool guest with me, y'all. I have comic book creator Ibrahim Mustafa. Say what's up, dog.
What's going on?
Man, first of all, look at that background, y'all. I thought my stuff was tight, but look at that. So clean.
Hey, that's how I gotta keep it. I get really anxious when things are like messy and cluttery, you know? Like I mean, we won't look at the other side of the room because I do have some stuff in the middle of working on projects. It's a little messy, but
No, I feel you.
yeah.
Dog, I understand. There's a reason I shoot from this angle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because over there and over
You
there
know,
is, yeah.
I have my drawing monitor right here too.
Yeah.
Like and it obscures my view of the messy workbench. So it's kind of nice that way.
Word up for you. I mean, I'm constantly in this room staring at the screen, so I don't even look left or right most of the time.
Right.
But yo, so Slackers, that's the name of my audience, by the way.
Okay.
It is a great pleasure for me to have him on the show. We've been friends for a long time, but more importantly, I've been a fan of his for a long time. And so today I want to talk about what makes me a fan of his, but also we're going to talk about the person behind all the stuff that I love. So to start off, I have to ask the question like, you've been an illustrator for a long time. You've been writing, but like, where did it all start, man? How did you get into this?
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words, man. I appreciate that. I was just a little kid who loved to draw, and I loved Superman and Batman, and and Ninja Turtles, and that was like what sent me down the path.
Right.
Eventually, I figured out sort of the marriage of the two in terms of like, oh, you can actually, do this for a living to some
Mm-hmm.
degree, right? And once I figured that out, I was just like, I gotta try it. I have to at least see if I can make it happen before I go with the backup plan.
Word up.
And I've made it in, and I've been clinging on for a little over a decade now. So
Were
see how long my
you?
grip holds.
I mean, you've been in here. Like I said, you've been in here for a minute. Were you scared at first at all?
you know, Not really. I mean, there's always like the nervous anticipation of like, will this thing, this pitch get picked up, or will I be able to find this or do that? But man, I've never had a rope. I've never had a safety net. It's just
Okay.
always been me under my own steam. So with that, I've kind of, I think, just built this sort of confidence where I'm like, I'm gonna make it happen because I do everything I said I was gonna do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why, like, not to get too far afield, but a lot of people in creative fields are like, talk about imposter syndrome all the time. I'm like, I don't know what
It
you
is a big
think.
topic. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm like, I'm exactly where the fuck I'm supposed to be. Matter of fact, I got people holding me back from getting where I should be because I did all this. I didn't have
Yeah.
any help. I didn't have anybody. I mean, I had some people along the way who, you know, like were into what I was doing and gave me opportunities that I earned by doing the work.
Right.
But I didn't have any undeserved leg ups or anything like that. So yeah, man,
Yeah.
never been the product of nepotism or any of that kind of shit.
We should do an episode on that one day. Just a discussion on because imposter syndrome is a big ideal in the creative industries, and I would love to explore how people get there.
Yeah.
You know.
I think it
Uh,
has to do with like, I mean, in some cases, like they know they didn't really deserve it. You know what I mean?
True.
Frankly, like there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who get where they are because they fail upwards or they get lucky, and luck is a part of it for everybody.
True that.
But I mean, it's right place, right time. You fit a certain demographic that they're trying to put on at the moment, whatever the case may be, right?
True. But
So yeah,
surely you have to have met somebody like right now. At some point where it's like you think they're really good and they just think that they're trash for some
yeah.
reason.
I
And
think
I
that is like a self confidence,
yeah.
issue generally, right? Like people just have like low self esteem inherently
Hmm.
sometimes, and it has nothing to do with how good they are at something or how you know attractive they might be or whatever. Like they always just think that they're trash, and like
Yeah, yeah,
Only therapists can help with that.
yeah. And those are the people that I'm interested in doing a case study on. Not that I'm any type of professional to
Right.
do that, but it would be interesting. So
I do feel like I'm fortunate in that I don't have whatever that like gene is, that self-doubt gene. Like I just, I don't know if it's a nature versus nurture thing. I mean, like I said, like I pretty much had to do it all on my own too. So for me, it's I could never afford to doubt myself. And I have little bits of self-doubt where I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna work like I think it will. But it's not really me doubting myself. I feel like it's more me doubting, just I guess having a realistic understanding of how shit works.
okay,
Like that there's going to be some kind of speed bump that you're going to hit, and it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes you just hit all the red lights.
yeah. I think it's more of like there's a trust issue with the method surrounding.
Yes. Yeah, like I know that like the comics industry is fickle as fuck, right? So like there's a good chance, you know,
Yeah.
here today, gone tomorrow. I mean, dude, the number I had a whole Valiant Ninjak Bloodshot crossover miniseries pitched and approved, and I was doing all this as my dog was fucking dying, and I was trying to take care of her and do my job, and the whole thing just went away because Valiant was fucking, they got bought out,
Yep.
and then the new owners absolutely fumbled the bag, and I was caught up in that fumble, unfortunately, So it's stuff like that. It's like I know I wrote a fucking awesome Ninjak Bloodshot story because I'm a fan of those comics, and I'm good at my job, and it was like a peanut butter and chocolate situation, and they fucked it up. So it's like,
Yeah, they did.
you know,
Yeah, that was an interesting story to follow. And then,
oh man,
where we are now, there are a lot of other interesting stories to follow, but we won't get into that
yeah,
when it comes to. So, I have your website pulled up here, and I like your little welcome message right here. It's very cool, but also a little ominous.
yeah, thank
Because it's kind of like, yeah, come on in to this.
into the mouth of the beast or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean that's all credit due to the brilliance of like the Skyfall set. That's based on Skyfall, a scene in Skyfall,
Right.
the Bond movie, and that's all credit to their brilliant like visual symbolism that I just drew a picture of, really. But I was like, I think that would be a cool like way to welcome people into the site, like
Oh,
like they're on the floating little gondola or whatever on their way in.
I dig it. No, I mean it's popping, it's eye catching, and it's got the clear word
Thank you,
there.
man.
This is where
And
you're supposed
I
to
will
be at.
say the damage on the face, that is not in the movie. That's something I did as like a callback to when Silva, played by Javier Bardem, takes the
That's
arm out
right.
of his face. Yeah.
hmm
So there's some of me in there, I should say.
Well, I mean, you drew it, so yeah. So, I know. I don't think I've ever seen you do something like a one for one without you adding something to it.
Yeah, I like to try to put some kind of like visual metaphor in there, or some kind of like hidden symbolism or something and stuff. Like, to me, that just makes it more visually interesting.
A couple weeks ago, I remember I was joking with you. I was like, "What if, like, every now and then you just slip something weird in there, like a waffle? There's no place to just
Yeah.
just to see who's paying attention."
I had a couple of assignments like that in school. Like in high school, we had to do like a pop culture painting, like a pop art kind of thing.
Okay.
And I was really into Bruce Lee at the time, and I just wanted to paint Bruce Lee. And we had to put a Volkswagen Bug in our painting somewhere. And I was also, I mean, I grew up obsessed with those cars. Like I could no scope one right now, like perfectly.
Okay.
Like that's how I used to draw them constantly as a kid. And one of the art teachers in my high school actually had this really dope, like I think it was like a 63 Bug two-tone. And they brought it into the middle of the art classroom because it was in one of these like annex buildings.
Oh, okay.
And so he just pulled it inside through the big garage door that opened, and so it was in there for us to draw from. But at that point I was like, but I want to do a painting of Bruce Lee to put on my own wall. And I'm not going to put all, like, I don't see how Volkswagen would fit in there. And my teacher was like, well, you have to. And I was like, okay, I will. And I put it in like the reflection in his eyes, so you couldn't even tell it was there. And I was like, it's in there. Technically, I did 2 of them. You know.
Oh man, and that's how he learned about semantics.
Yeah. Oh man, I used to, that poor lady. I got in touch with her over the last couple of years. We reconnected because I was like, I had this moment where we used to butt heads a lot because I was a stubborn little kid and I was going through a lot. And, you know, she was just trying to do her job, but I didn't really see it for what it was. And I reached out to her because I realized like there's so many people now in comics who don't know how to paint, and they don't know like how to do a lot of different art disciplines. They've only learned because they have a drawing program on their computer. Like they couldn't even replicate it in ink a lot of the time, you know?
Right.
And she really like introduced us to everything. Like we threw pottery on the wheel, you know, or, you know, clay on the pottery wheel. We did oil painting, oil pastels, watercolor, acrylics, graphite, charcoal. Like we did all of it. So by the time I left high school, like I had at least dabbled in every sort of like major like form of, you know, art. So I reached out to her and I was just like, hey, you know, it's been a long time and I hope you're well. And like, I just wanted to say thank you because you really gave me the opportunity to like enter into what I do now, like more well-formed and with the ability to do paintings and to work with clay and, you know,
Yeah.
so that was a cool thing to be able to tell her. And of course she, you know, was super gracious and loved hearing it. And, you know, and actually she had like an art show that I went to after that. So it's nice to kind of, reconnect after 20 years.
Look at this guy, y'all. Look at this guy. Man. You know, I'm going to tell you something right now. Okay? It is something that I've had to contend with and learn about being friends with Ibrahim. He is annoying. He is annoyingly cool.
Well, thank you, man.
Like he be saying stuff sometimes and just be like, that sounds made up, but he totally done it. did it? Let me scroll through your website a little bit and just show people what to expect to find on here. Obviously, you've done a lot of comics, and we're going to talk about each one of these in a little bit. But up here, you know, if you go through here, we see you've got your creator-owned projects with Humanoids, Sin, Retroactive, and Count. High Crimes that you did with Christabella with Dark Horse. The James Bond comic that you got into. Like, you've been all over the place a little bit, you know, and this is just, if you click on each one of these, like, back, you'll get to see a few pages of each, and I will show you some of that in a bit, but just so you can navigate the website fairly, this is what I want you to do, is go through here, click on something you're interested in, you'll get the synopsis. For instance, if you click on Jaeger, you'll get a full page spread like this, with the synopsis here on the left, and then the cover here, as well as some interior pages, like you can see right here. Some of my favorite colors, by the way.
Thank you, man. I had so much fun. I want to do another book like that, actually.
Okay, I want you to do another book like this.
Yeah, I have one on deck that I'm planning to start pitching. That I want to do in a similar style to that. Okay. So,
word up. And then I noticed that you have a section too, because you've done a lot of covers, just again all around the industry. So, guys, if you look at this one, of this page here, you'll see, like I said, his humanoid stuff, but then all of his stuff he's done for DC, Valiant, IDW, Image, Dynamite, the High Crimes book, and then Boom. Which for Boom, it was Escape from New York, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did 2 covers for that, and I did one for a book called Dead Letters by Chris Sabella and Chris Visions. Yeah, I think those are, I need to swap those out. Those don't seem to get larger. But we were talking about the hidden symbolism kind of stuff. You know, the imagery from Escape from New York is that Statue of Liberty head, right?
Yeah.
But I put the Snake Plissken eye patch on it. That was my little
contribution.
Yeah. And then the one up above, you know, the story had him on a motorcycle doing something, and I put that snake tattoo that he has on his stomach, like kind of in that
in the back here.
Firestorm cloud thing. So
Right.
yeah, I love trying to do stuff like that.
I picked up on that one right away, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I think I have this one.
Thank you.
Actually, let's pop through some of these DC ones real quick. I have to ask, just because if you follow Ibrahim at all, you know that this dude is a Superman dude.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so you've had the opportunity to draw Superman several times now. What does that feel like every time you do it? Like, does the little geek come out in you? Like, or are you just like, I'm professional and I'm just bam?
Man, it's a little of both. The luster isn't quite there anymore, just because of all the bullshit you have to deal with on the other side. like some of these, they like messed up my payment, and I didn't get paid for like a month. Past when it was supposed to happen, because somebody forgot to submit the invoice or whatever. And other times it's like, I have an idea I want to do, but they're sort of dictating to me, like, here's what we want the cover to look like. And none of these are like that, but these are all ones that I submitted sketches and they picked from them. But yeah, it's like sometimes, like, I want to do something, but they've already given me what they want from it, right? And I'm just like, okay, well, it's not as fun to like. It's kind of like somebody going, hey, wear a shirt that's like a button up that is plaid and like blue tones in it. And you're like, I don't really. It's not what I would have picked out for me to wear. It's like weird that you're telling me what to wear. Like, you wanted me to show up, right? But like, why are you telling me how? So it's definitely interesting when it's like an editor who's not an artist is telling you what should be in an image, and you're like, okay, I can do that, but I could also come up with something that might be cooler than that. Do you want to see that? Because that's why you're hiring me, right? Like, because like this was one where I'm like, I don't really want to draw a little Clark coming out of corn. I don't want to draw all that corn. But that was what they asked for, so I did it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like they wanted me to put like a Superman S in the clouds, and I was like,
what?
I'm not trying to do all that, especially because like that's where the masthead goes. I mean, this was a variant, so it didn't have one. It's like on the side.
Yeah.
But I said, what if I do this and I made the light hit his red shirt in a way.
Yeah, I see it now. Yeah,
and they were down with that. So
that's better, because that cloud thing sounds dumb.
It just is a little bit like ham-fisted, I think. It's
right.
Heavy-handed. Like
it's given the feel of like the Gotham TV show introducing Catwoman.
Right. And no disrespect intended, obviously, but like it's a weird thing to be like, hey, can you do this? And you're like, what I do is coming up with these images. Like, I do this shit for fun, man. Like let me show you what
what about this one? This was Mother Panic, right? And like this was such a new thing for them at that time. Was it kind of fun to be on something like they were just introducing into the world?
Yeah, I mean, so I drew the second arc, or not the second arc. I guess it was the second
series, sub-series, or whatever. Yeah.
So there were 3 arcs, and the first one was drawn by Tommy Lee Edwards, who's a favorite of mine. And the last one was drawn by John Paul Leon, who's also one of my, on my Mount Rushmore. Rest in peace to him. And so I was already reading the book, and so for me that was really cool, because it was like, I mean, it was sort of right up my alley stylistically, and I had a lot of fun with that one. I only got to do that one cover because Tommy Lee Edwards did all the other ones, and like, I mean, I'm not mad at that. No,
I get it. Yeah. I did like that series though too. I did think that was a cool new character they came up with, and I was really happy when you got I have this one too, this Dr. Fate cover, and that was I actually thought about making a custom action figure based on this look right here.
Oh, that would have been cool. Yeah, man, I should do that. I should take your idea and do that. Because I like to collect figures of characters that I have worked on. You know, this was interesting because this was a relaunch of the character by Paul Levitz, and he made him the nephew of Kent Nelson, the original Dr. Fate, and he's half Egyptian. So it was like, getting to draw myself in a book, written by a white guy, which was totally cool. And yeah, it was fun. You know, that was these covers were tough too because like the editor, who's a friend of mine, shout out to him. He just was like, he wanted me to do something and he didn't know what he wanted me to do. He just knew that everything I was submitting to him was not it.
Okay.
And that was really frustrating actually because I did literally like you do like 3 cover design like sketches and you go and then they pick one.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they pick 2 and they go, hey, do this one for this one, and then the next issue we'll use number 2, right? In this case I did something like 12 different designs.
Oh my.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, at this point, man, I don't know, because you don't get paid for those, you know. It was just like, I don't know what you want, man. You got to pick something, or maybe I'm just not the guy for this. And eventually, we landed on those. But yeah, that was.
I had no idea that the process was so. Yeah.
It can be. That's why I like working on my own stuff, man. Because like, you know, yeah, you have an editor a lot of times, but they're not. It's not. It's your thing. You're not. It's not a corporate IP, right? So it's kind of like, how are you going to tell me I'm wrong about my own thing? Like if it's not doing the job a cover should, then yeah, obviously we go over that and we figure out why it's not doing that job. But other than that, like, let me cook, you know?
Right. Let me cook, yo. Good plan. Let me go back to. Sorry, I got so lost in looking at these covers that I forgot to show them the rest of your website, and that's on me. You know,
some of those are old too. Like that Superman one is only from like last year or the year before.
Yeah.
But like the Dr. Fate ones, those are like over a decade old now. I think I did those in
No.
2018. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh wow, that is a decade.
Yeah.
I forgot what year it was, y'all.
I know, right?
I'm going to skip over this for now because I want to do a whole thing on this. We'll talk about YouTube in a second. But also, he does take commissions. How do people know when you are available? Are you always available for commissions, or is it?
No, I usually put a call out saying, "Hey, you know, I'm going to open up a few slots." Yeah, because normally I don't have time. Unfortunately,
that's exactly why I asked. I'm like, wait a minute, how is he taking commissions? He ain't got time.
Yeah.
You know, but here's an example of some of the ones he's done in the past, which I have some of these. So I think it's interesting too because this is your original character, and somebody commissioned you to do that.
So this actually I did as a giveaway for our friend Doug's comic shop.
Oh, okay.
Like a raffle for people who pre-ordered the book.
Gotcha.
But this is in the style of the commissions that I do, so I put it up here as like an example of like, you ask for a single character, and also I feel like it's good advertising for my own book, which a lot of people don't know about. So,
well, they're gonna hear about it today.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's some of the color commissions, and then you do black and white. Obviously, I think you would charge more for colors because then that takes a whole lot more detail, right?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. At this point, I prefer to do the color ones. Like,
okay,
I just find them easier, so I don't really charge much more for them than I do black and white.
I love this Batman.
Thank you. That was fun. Yeah, that was the only time I've ever drawn the Spirit.
What? Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting because I feel like that would be your jam. You know?
Yeah, I just it's sort of like I don't have a lot of time to just do like fan art stuff for fun, so it really is only if I'm getting hired to by either a commission or, you know, a publisher.
Why haven't I made a Spirit custom yet?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's no, next on the list. But you know, let me divvy away from this. I'm going to come back to some of this later, and I want to go through some of your other work. And so I'm going to remove this for now and add this so that we can talk about specifically some of your projects and the things that you're working on. So I'm going to start here with Count, which is your baby. Like this, you did this. Like it's pretty well. There's other names on here, but this is you started this. Yeah. And so. Would you mind telling the Slack Pack a little bit about Count, brief synopsis, and why you decided to do it?
Yeah, so this is my sci-fi reimagining of the Count of Monte Cristo. I love revenge stories, and I was working one day and just thinking about revenge stories and movies and stuff, and I was like, man, what is like the Count of Monte Cristo's got to be like the ultimate revenge story, right? I think it's
Right.
sort of the progenitor of a lot of that
Oh yeah.
subgenre, um, at least in like actual literature and storytelling and stuff. And so, and it's in the public domain. And I had wanted to start getting into writing my own stuff more because I had done Jaeger at that point, and I got nominated for an Eisner for it. And I was like, okay, well, that's a clear indication that I'm, like decent enough at this to keep doing it. And I was working on James Bond stuff at the time, and Dynamite is such a bad publisher that they weren't paying me on time. Like the way a lot of freelance, especially like visual art stuff, graphic design, comics, the way a lot of it works is on net 30, which means you do the work, then you submit an invoice saying, hey, pay me for the work I did. And that company has 30 days before they actually pay you. So you're getting paid a month after you do the stuff, but they need it when they need it,
Right.
So it's like, I got a deadline. You don't have a deadline too? Like, that's interesting, but it's just kind of it's just the way it is, right? There's just not much you can do about it. So Dynamite I would constantly have to wait till we got to net 30. And then, if that check wasn't arriving, I was like, I'd have to hit them up. And probably half the time they would be, oh, we lost the voucher for that. Can you resubmit it? And I'd have to wait another week or two. So that was happening enough times that I was just like, fuck it, pencil down. I have some financial runway I've built for myself. I'm just going to live off of my savings and work on my own shit until they get their act together and start paying me on time. So I took that time to make the pitch package for Count, where I did character designs and I wrote the synopsis, and I had a whole PDF of this person is this and this is their role in the story and stuff. So I was able to put together like a really comprehensive, like polished PDF. And I'd sent it around a little bit, but then I actually was solicited by Humanoids to draw something for them. And I was like, I can't do that, but I have a thing that if you're interested in taking a look at the pitch. And they were like, yeah. It was my buddy Fabrice Sapolsky, who runs his own imprint, Fair Square Comics, now with his wife.
Shout out Fabrice.
Yeah. He was like, pitch it to me, and I was like, okay. And so I pitched it to him, and, I wasn't sure if they were going to go for it because they're a French publisher, and this is like one of like the, like the French stories. And I was like, they might be like, but luckily they liked it. And so Mark Wade was he was like a consulting editor. He was like an editorial consultant or something at the time.
Yep.
And right around the same time, they hired him to be publisher. And thankfully, he read the pitch, and he was like, he told me, he said to them, you need to sign this book yesterday. And then they followed up with an offer to do a 3-book deal, which included this and 2 after it, which ended up being Retroactive and Sin. So yeah, that was the story of how Count came together. And dude, I wrote and drew this book in 7 months. Like, I was just fire under my ass. Right, I was so excited. I had so much fun making it. It was just like the purest experience of just, they paid me on time. They were into what I was doing. Like, I just had free reign to put my best foot forward. And I'm really proud of the book. I feel like I really got a chance to.
It should be. It's a good book.
Thank you,
man. I will say it is colorful in all the right ways. It's action packed, and it's a good retelling of the story with a fresh spin on it. Because, like you said, it is a story that has been retold a bunch of times, but I can gladly say, like, not like this.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I took the broad strokes and I made it my own for sure. And shout out to Brad Simpson on the colors. He's like, man, that dude I'm so lucky he likes working with me because he makes all my shit look so good.
Yeah, he's made it popping for sure.
Yeah. And man, one common refrain I've heard about this book is that it's too short. And
okay.
And I'm like, they only give me 120 pages, man. Like, that's 6 issues of a comic, Like, yes, I get that the Count of Monte Cristo is like a 1,300 page book or whatever. Yeah, this is not the same thing. Like I like I said, the broad strokes are there, but this reads like a 2-hour movie.
Well, you know what? Let me circle back to that because I have a comment and a question.
Yeah.
When we get after this next book, because I also want to talk about this, and then so this was the second book, retroactive,
Yes.
and to me, this was such a good. It was like a mashup of things I know about you.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, because it was so spy heavy,
Yeah.
but also like sciency. You know, and I was like, okay, I see you in here. And then again, okay, so when you went back, this was already part of the initial deal, right?
No, basically they said, "Hey, we I think I had count was like basically done, or it was
Okay.
I was probably 2/3 of the way through count, and they were like, "Hey, what else you got?" You know, and I was like, "You guys want
Ah.
more? Hell yeah!" You know,
Okay.
and so I pitched them a few ideas, and this was the one that Mark Wade liked the best,
Okay.
and it was also the one I wanted to do the most, so that was great.
Hmm.
And they said, "Okay, how about this? Like, we'll make this part of a 3 book. Like, we'll do this one as book 2, and we'll make it a 3 book deal encompassing all 3. So you'll have
Okay.
one more after this." Um, so yeah, this was basically like, I love James Bond and I love time travel stuff, and I was
Yeah.
like, how do I make a cohesive time travel story that deals with espionage
Right.
in a fresh way? And I specifically, this is a time loop story, so it's a Groundhog Day kind of thing
Hmm.
inside of like a larger sort of espionage time travel thing. Um, and yeah, I this is the thing I'm most proud of that I've made. Like, this is the biggest swing I've taken.
Well, this is the one I was going to say that reminded me of, like, not that because Count was his own thing, but this is the one that reminded me of Jaeger.
Yeah,
You know, because but without the sci-fi. Jaeger, it's
yeah.
like, yeah, you know, this
So
had the
Jaeger,
sci-fi.
yeah, Jaeger's a post World War II story about a former Allied, spy, prison camp survivor who's going around hunting Nazis.
Yeah,
And
and
it kind of is about his revenge mission. And you know it's more of a graphic novella, that one. Like, I didn't have a
yeah,
lot of room given to me for that one, but I'm really proud of that one, and I do want to get back to that world and do more stories in it.
okay.
um but yeah, this was like, an opportunity to do a modern day, I mean, actually not even modern day, like in the very near future kind of spy story with actual tech. Because
Right.
beginning of the Cold War, like, there was some spy stuff, like, a gun in a shoe kind of stuff, but there wasn't like, you know. So this was really me kind of stretching my legs and trying to make something that was wholly unique and, with my sensibilities. In fact, I was asked recently by Humanoids to put together some material of like, hey, what did you use for like inspiration for this? And I was
Hmm.
like, is all up here, man. Like, this is all I mean, this scene takes place in back in time, because of time travel.
Right.
But all the tech, all the vehicles, it's all stuff I designed, and it's all based on like what I think it would look like in the year, 2040
Right.
something or whatever, where it's like, I mean, because if you think about it, like movies that took place in 2025 or 2024 or whatever, they all look so futuristic, but really shit is all the same. The buildings don't change.
It's
They're
true.
still here. We still got buildings from the 1700s.
So
Like,
you came up with those suits then, like,
yeah.
because I don't want to. It's not in here, and I don't want to spoil it. But
Oh, they're on the
the
cover. It's cool. Yeah,
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 yeah. No, they're on the cover. But I mean, but on the interior, you get to see more of that, and when you see the
yeah,
lab, yeah, okay, okay, that's really good. That's
yeah. And like,
interesting.
there's a, like the main character drives a Mustang looking car in it, and is like what I think the evolution of a Mustang might look like in 20 years. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Based on the trends of the cycle of like, they went from having a certain body style in the 60s to, now through like 1970, and then they started changing, getting all different. Then they relaunched them in the, the 80s and the 90s. And, like the modern
mm.
day ones are more of a throwback to the classic style. So what does that look like if that cycle continues,
Right, and that's I was gonna say. There's gonna the styles will cycle back somewhat,
Right.
with some updates, and then and also materials, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah, considering materials. So this is the one I wanted to talk to you about in relation to count.
Yeah.
So because like people said it was too short, But if you get this,
Right.
because this is, I mean, it's not like a sequel or anything like, but there's enough that happened in Count where you could do 4 more of things like this.
Yeah, so this character on the cover here is in Count, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And this is the continuation of her story specifically.
Exactly.
Right? So it takes place in the same world, and there's references to Count, but you can read this one by itself, or you can read this first and go back and read Count. Like, I very intentionally did it that way so that, you know, there was more of that world, because I wanted to tell more of that story.
Right.
You know? But also not in a way that would make it like, well, I haven't seen the first one, so I can't watch the sequel kind of thing. You know what I mean?
No, I've read both, and yeah, you did a good job on it. And you know, first of all, Slack Pack, you know, let me take a break here for a second. Time out. I want y'all to understand something. Ibrahim and I are friends, and you know, but I need you to understand something. We're good enough friends that if he made trash, I would tell him. Okay. I would straight up tell him, because like when I'm really friends with somebody, like I don't let them just give me something. I'm not a yes man, is my point.
Yeah.
But like I thought, you know, because it had been so long since I had read Count, you know, and then I picked this up and read this, and I was like, oh, you could just read this. You know, I realized that as I was like, oh yeah, because it is a full development of the character again with the proper amount of backstory without drying it out, and then just wrapping it up.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, that's exactly what I set out to do. Like I did, you know, I wanted to kind of tease this, you know, continuation for her at the end of Count, but I didn't have the space, because that book, it just like, it has to move at a clip, because I only had so much, you know, room in it, right? So this one, I got to let it breathe a little bit more. This is essentially a sci-fi western, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny. A criticism of this one has been like, you know, you've seen this story before, and it's like, well, yeah, it's a western. Like they're all like when you do like a genre fiction subgenre type of stuff, like they're all going to share DNA, right? But it's in the characters in the story that you're telling, and that's the part that's different, because it's uniquely my world and my vision for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, this dude, I wanted to do this book so badly, and I had to really twist their arm to let me do this, because they were like, sequels, I don't know. And I was like, I laid out for them, this is the plan. You know, it will only help to boost sales of the original book, because people will find this one and then go back to that one, which has happened several times from what I've, at least anecdotally, from what people have said when they've reviewed it or, you know, told me about it or whatever. So yeah, I was really, really happy to get to do this. And, you know, my dog passed right as I was sitting down to write this, and so I got to put her in the book. Well, both my dogs are in the book.
They're in the books, yeah.
Yeah, and she's actually on the cover. So that was a nice cathartic thing for me, to just sort of like not forget what she looked like. You know what I mean? Like just to be able to like, yeah, I can still draw her from memory easy as, you know. And I didn't shoehorn her in there. Like the dogs were always going to be part of the story, because, you know, Sin, the main character, is kind of this allegory for like a pit bull, like a fighting dog. Like she was trained to be this thing she doesn't want to be, and it's not her nature, and she has to like overcome that and like find her like humanity again. And you know, it's kind of like there are no bad dogs, just bad people. Yeah. So
yeah, and that was evident too. Like the family dynamic, the built family dynamic in here was really nice to see.
Thank you.
You know, and one thing I was going to say, because you mentioned it, and I don't remember who I was talking to about this, but you know, you said it's essentially a western, and people's like, oh, well, you know, it's been there, done that. But like, yeah, but that's because everybody's seen Seven Samurai. Like, if you've seen Seven Samurai and the Magnificent Seven, like you've seen, like there's so many things that have been. They didn't make every western movie, but like the thing of outlaw justice, you know, kind of goes way far back. So yeah.
Well, it's like you don't come out of, you know, Star Wars or Harry Potter or The Matrix going like, it's a Messiah story. You've seen it before. The chosen one, you know what I mean? So it's
Right.
like, that's just how we tell stories. Like
It is.
there are, sort of formulas out there that work, that we love, that we, fans of those formulas want to tell their own version of that formula. And yeah, so I always find that one funny. It's like, yeah, it's called genre fiction, people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't out here going like, man, this new wheel I'm inventing is going to be so sick, you know?
You never seen nothing like this.
Right.
Yeah. Blood. I have put some examples in here coming up that I want to ask you about violence in books eventually. High Crimes could be one of them, really, because it was, but this was the project you did with Chris Sabella, big old murder mystery mountain story. And
that's actually what it says on the back. If you look at the,
does it really? Oh, I didn't even.
no,
Yeah.
no, I'm playing.
I was like, what? I was like, I don't remember seeing that on my copy, but
Murder Mystery Mountain story.
But now you can use that if you want, though. I won't.
I will. Yeah.
Okay. But
change the metadata. Amazon.
I don't think I have any pages of this, but did you want to talk about High Crimes a little bit? Because this was like a big project for you.
Yeah,
at the
that was
time,
the book
and
that set my career path.
yeah.
I met Chris Sabella through a mutual friend. I had told this person like, yeah, I'm looking to collaborate with a writer if you know anybody, because I was really trying to ride somebody else's coattails, because I was like, that's kind of the beauty of like when you can draw in comics, you can sort of be like a gold digger in that way. Like, I was like, let me find an established writer, because they're always looking for somebody who's competent with drawing, and I knew I was at least that. So I was like, if I can find somebody to like bring me up with them, But Sabella at the time was pretty much at the same level I was, but this idea was so good that I was just like, fuck it, let's do it, man. We'll figure it out.
I mean, it was a good idea. It was a good book. How come this didn't get no movie deals when I was,
We were close a couple times, but
okay.
Various shenanigans made them fall through, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It could still happen. We'll see. I think it's a lofty thing. Like, it takes place in
it makes sense.
area, and
Yeah.
I mean, they could do it. They could film it in fucking Canada and figure it out. But
Exactly. But look at what we're doing now. Like, we're just now getting books from 20 years ago in
Right.
media and film. So, they just go back and be like, okay, that one now.
Yeah.
We'll get to like, what is it? I just saw the first episode of Revival.
Yeah. I gotta check that out. I like Mike a lot. He's a good dude.
Yeah. But that book is what? That's more than a decade old now.
Yeah.
And then this is the one we were talking about earlier, folks. Yeager. This was his Eisner nominated book, and this is another thing that is just you. So
that was the first thing.
This is the first thing. Yeah.
My first officially published work. I did that through a digital first publisher.
Okay.
And then eventually just self-published it through, print on demand, and then sold it at conventions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually Fabrice, who we mentioned before, who used to be at Humanoids, he started his own imprint, Fair Square Comics, and their tagline is like "Comics from the rest of us."
Yes.
Which is like kind of a little nod to the fact that there's certain people who have an easier time in the industry, and then the rest of us are out here trying to make it happen. And so he hit me up and he was like, hey man, do you have anything that I can put out that is done that you're looking for a home for? And I said, I was Lucius Fox. I'm just a thing. It's called Memory Cloth. No. So he did a run of it. I think he sold out of 1,500 copies of it through Diamond, and that was awesome, because it just goes to show that with tenacity and and I've been able to sell out at conventions of every print run I've done, which has been really great too. So I like having this little book. It's too short for most publishers to want to mess with, because it's only, I think it's 80 pages, or no, is it 48 pages, I think. And
I don't know why I just looked on my wall like I was gonna be able to tell.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, it is.
But yeah, so it's something that I can afford to have small runs printed up of, and do on my own, and it's been great to have that. There's no better feeling than like I made this thing from birth to earth. And I mean, the only thing I didn't do was letter it. Nate Picos of Blambot lettered it, but I wrote it, penciled it, inked it, colored it. And in a lot of cases I've printed it myself. So yeah.
Shout out Nate.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Hey man, it'd be like that sometimes, but like it's well worth it sometimes. I think it's a good book to have at your convention table for sure. So
yeah, and it's nice to have this thing that's like nobody else has a say in it. I don't have to wait for approvals or any kind of permission. I just make it when I want it.
That's what's up. Well, I would love to see you return back to this project someday. So, and now I just wanted to go through some other random things that I just pulled from your website because I can do that. And so here's a cover that you did for Godzilla, for IDW, for you Godzilla fans out there. And I see you're playing around again with the smoke cloud in the back.
Yeah, in that issue, he fights Ghidorah and Destroya, I believe. I drew the issue as well. That was an issue of Godzilla in Hell, which was this like sort of anthology. Every issue was a one shot. And yeah, it was like he was just kind of like living and dying. Like they would kill him, he'd come back. They'd kill him, he'd come back, and that was sort of the hell he was trapped in.
Damn.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fun. That was Brandon Seifert wrote that one.
What up, Brandon? Were you a fan of Godzilla? Like, do you do kaiju?
Not really. I think I had seen a couple Godzilla movies at that point, and I was certainly aware of it, just from being in the industry and all that. But yeah, I mean, there's certain things that you might not be a big consumer of, but like the opportunity to draw them, you're like, oh, that would be fun.
Word up. Okay, so this is one of those for you. Okay.
Yeah, like when it came my way, I was just like, hell yeah. Like
yeah. Unlike this.
Yeah.
you Teenage Mutant Ninja nerd.
The one time I got to do any Ninja Turtle stuff, officially anyway.
Yeah. But I love that it's like they're coming out of the Spencer silhouette. Just like that's pretty cool.
Thank you, man. That was a lot of fun. I would love to take another crack at them with my current skill set. This was like 2014, I think 2015. So that's 10 years old.
Yeah. Okay. And then we saw this one earlier, Dr. Fate, but I saw that this was in there too. I just like this picture, to be honest.
Thank you. That was another one that was like a throwback to or like there was editorial direction. Like Paul Levitz, who wrote the issue, wanted this to be based on some old cover or old panel from like a Silver Age Dr. Fate thing. Gotcha. And I actually ended up having fun with it. Typically, I'm like, don't make me, But this was this was a good one.
No, I mean it's pretty dope looking. Like if I could, I would love to put that in my bathroom.
Okay,
is that weird?
Yeah.
Okay, I honestly just
no,
want to see.
Hey, I
just want to see if I could be weird.
Put my stuff up. Yeah, no, thank you, man.
And then there was that again, and then I did gloss over this a little bit earlier. This was a commission, right?
Yes.
Okay.
One of my favorite requests. When somebody asks me to draw something I love, I'm like, let's go.
I love the detail. And look, there's the doorway back there too. And like this is the full picture, and then you've got the face.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Javier's
That's my favorite Bond movie too. So
Dope. Don't come at me or us in the comments about your favorite Bond movie, okay? Like that's his favorite Bond movie. He can have that.
I think Skyfall is pretty universally loved, I think. So
no, I know, but like there's always that one person that's like
actually Skyfall is
right. Okay, tell me about this because seems more recent.
Yes,
and this is was this a commission you took like at a convention or just?
No, this was a rare occasion where I got to draw something for fun.
Oh, okay, word up.
Yeah, like I had just read the first issue, I think, of The Last Ronin, and I really enjoyed it, and I was like, you know what, I want to draw this. And so I sat down and I just made a painting of it, and this was a few years ago. I'm really proud of this one. I think this is one of the better things I've made, like painting wise, and it was fun to draw a Ninja Turtle with a more current skill set. And I did end up selling this one to somebody.
Okay.
So it kind of was like a reverse commission in a way.
Gotcha. I think it's interesting too that if you look closely in the windshield, you can see a reflection of Bruce Lee. Just
it's the opposite of the car.
Right. No, this is dope. Love the color choices, and I love the fact that any vigilante is standing on top of a cop car. It's great.
Yeah.
So, where did this come from?
So this was a convention request. I had been doing, this is one of the better ones I've gotten. I had been doing like little movie posters, like for fun, and like I had a Patreon briefly where I was doing them, but I got too busy. And this was from somebody named Sarah, who I had met several times at conventions, and she's super cool. And she decided she wanted a commission from me, and she was like, Point Break, and I was just like, oh my god, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, now I'm gonna try to come up with something for the future, just to surprise the hell out of you. Be like, I want this.
Man, I love, like, everybody wants to draw Batman and stuff like that. I love drawing like movies, especially ones that I'm a fan of. Like, that's my favorite.
Oh, you know what? I got it. Harlem Nights.
Yeah, man. I've never seen that one, but I've Drew Struzan did a poster for it, and he's the GOAT, and so like very familiar with imagery from it, like the old cars and the nice double-breasted like 1930s suits or whatever, 40s. Yeah.
Well,
Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor in that, right?
Yeah, and Red Fox.
That's right.
Yeah, and so many people.
Yeah, I gotta watch that one.
Now we're gonna put that on our list then. But then here's a nice Spider-Man. We got here.
This one was a commission request. This was a pre-commission request from Heroes Con in like 2016, 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one and only time I've been to Heroes, and that was a lovely convention. I gotta get back to that one.
Yeah, this is very clean. I like it.
Thank you, man. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't draw Spider-Man often, so this was a fun one.
Yeah, well, I mean, you did a good job for somebody who doesn't draw Spider-Man.
Thank you, man.
Not this one though. This is terrible.
Yeah, that was from the same show. Actually, that was a Taskmaster from the same show.
Actually, Taskmaster's my guy. So
is it? I was trying to find a way to, and actually, you know what? You know what's funny is the character of Sin in my books, Count and Sin. The way they did Taskmaster in the Black Widow movie was very similar to how I handled that character, and I did it first, so I feel good about that. So I was on to something,
No, I think the choice of having him standing on the sword and the shield while ready to draw the bow, ready to knocking an arrow is actually pretty dope. But I would love to see an actual Taskmaster scene like this in a book.
Thank you, man. I wanted to try to put his I like when it's similar like with an action figure. I like when you can load them up with their accessories or set them up to they're sort of using them all in a way, So this felt like a way to do that.
Well, speaking of which, speaking of action figures, we're gonna actually transition into that a little bit. Man, we've been talking about. I appreciate your patience and running through all of your history of art and why you did things and all that. It was a good chance to learn a little bit about your brain. But I also want to talk about the fact that you are also a big action figure guy.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to bring this back up here. And I don't know, for those that don't know, Ibrahim has his own YouTube channel where he talks about his action figure collecting, but also his custom action figures, because he's been into custom action figure making now for how long now? How many years has it been now?
It's been close to 10, I would think.
Right? 10 years
at least 7 or 8, probably.
Yeah, so you can see like the channel here. Actually, we just did a celebration. He just reached 10,000 subscribers last week. Is that correct?
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, if you scroll through here, you can see he will post up a lot of videos talking about how he made something, and we're going to look at some of that too. But he also does reviews of new stuff that he gets from certain companies because, like me, he can't stop buying figures. He's got a little bit of a problem. A little bit of a problem. But in fact, let me go over to one of the videos now. I'd like to show some of the members what I mean, and I will switch to this tab now, and we will go over here. It's going to be a little loud. Get ready and go.
What a banger.
Dude, like, who was first in this picture?
I believe it was Ryu and Ken. I did at the same time.
Okay, word up.
Or Ryu, excuse me. And then, but M. Bison was the one that started it. So I did those two first, but M. Bison was like, what happened was I saw those Jada ones coming out. The Jada Toys Street Fighter figures.
Yeah.
And they look incredible, but I like soft goods, right?
Exactly.
And I was like, okay, well, I want to make these, but let me make them in like a realistic style because that's how I always like to represent things,
Mm-hmm.
But I was so inspired by how good those Jada ones looked, especially M. Bison, that I was like, I gotta figure these out for myself. So yeah, those were the first three, and then Chun-Li, and then Cammy, and then I actually have done Sagat since then. So he's on
okay. I was just gonna say, like, I felt like there was somebody missing. Who else is on the docket though? Like, who else are you?
So I have a body and parts for Zangief. I just got to find the time to do it. I really want to make a Vega. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'm trying to do as much of the cast as I can, and then the plan is to make a diorama of the Chun-Li stage, like that street Chinese market.
Okay.
I have all the parts. I just haven't had the time to put it together. So,
okay. Well, let me ask you this: what about, like, were you ever into Mortal Kombat as well?
Bro, you can't see right now. I have a combat corner.
I'm just messing
K.
with you. Okay,
Yeah.
So look,
okay.
this is my idea. All right, you could make the Chun-Li stage, right? You could, or you can make a replica Waffle House, and then you can just put any fighter in there.
Yeah, that's true.
Just put any fighter in the Waffle House, and there's your set. Here's something else I pulled from your Instagram. You already know that I really loved this this Casey that you did. I'm gonna steal it, and you didn't catch that, right?
Yeah, no, man. I'm like, I'm not one of these people. I like when people have cool stuff, So I'm always about. That's why I always share everything I do, because I'm like, yeah, if you want to make one with this, do it. Just shout me out. That's the only thing I ask, because a lot of people like to be like. They like, dude, when I customized that '89 Batmobile from McFarlane, I was the first person to really like gut that thing, and I was the first person to make it a 2-seater. I was the first person online to chop that canopy because it was too tall and reform it. And I used a very specific method that is specific to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
To materials that I use, and just like, this is the only way I know how to do this. Because there's another guy who did one simultaneously that he showed me after. And he used Bondo, which is like it's a material for bodywork on cars.
Yeah.
I used epoxy sculpt because that's just what I knew would work, but realistically Bondo is probably a better solution, right?
I would have never thought of that.
Cars.
Yeah, I guess
but I never used Bondo.
Yeah.
And if I had, I would have done it probably, right? So I did this thing, and all these people are out here making videos talking about like, yeah, so I use this Aves epoxy sculpt, which they had never heard of until I put it in my, you know what I mean? They just copied what I did full stop and made it seem like it was their idea. And I was just like, it costs you nothing to say where you learned it from, like
True.
don't
Yeah.
be like that, this is gross to me, but yeah.
No, I mean, I
Anyway.
literally just told my other host, Chicago Landy, she did something the other day when we were editing together, and I was like, "Oh, I'm still in that. That's dope." and then I did it, and then I said, "Look, look at this new thing I got from Chicago Landy." Like it didn't
Yeah,
hurt. It didn't hurt me to do it.
exactly. I do that all the time on my channel. I'll be like, I saw so and so make something like this and I wanted to try it, or their thing they made inspired an idea for this thing. I'm constantly doing that.
Yeah,
And I feel like rising tide raises all ships, right? Like so
yeah.
yeah.
You know what was cute though, especially Slack Pack. I'm talking to y'all a second ago. I said the Casey Jones was like, haha, I'm gonna steal it, right? He thought I meant I'm gonna take his technique. I meant the figure. Like I'm gonna go
Oh,
back
yeah.
the figure. I'm just gonna go.
Yes, come take it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm grimy like that. But so I noticed that you started doing these lately. Like you've been doing like custom heads, and then you get not mass produced, but you're gonna make multiple custom heads that'll be available to some people in the public. Is this correct?
Yes. This is
Okay.
my first one. Comics are so fickle, and I love sculpting, you know, I got a 3D printer recently. I finally bit the bullet and got one because I was like, I can sculpt. I just needed the right, equipment to do it. Like, and I needed an iPad with Nomad Sculpt. That's kind of like the most user-friendly way to do it. And I was like, it's time. It's time to finally start doing this. And I want to have kind of a side hustle because comics are so fickle. And we could get into this in a another discussion or
Of
in a later
course.
part. But like, I'm one of the very few Middle Eastern Americans, Middle Easterns of any uh, nationality working in this industry, and there have really been none before me. Like, I don't have like any pioneers ahead of me to credit for opening the door for my people. It's been me. Like, these are all my hurdles to jump for the first time. There's been a few simultaneously,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I feel like my hurdles are different because I have the most ethnic Islamic sounding name of anybody,
Yeah.
in mainstream Western comics. There are Arabic names, but people aren't educated or worldly enough oftentimes to recognize what that name origin is. Whereas like mine, especially Mustafa, is just such a like stereotypical, like, it's funny because my
Yeah.
name is so different here, but like in the Middle East, I'm like Tim Smith. You know what I mean? So
Bob.
yeah. So yeah, because of all of those barriers that I face all the time, I don't feel that I've had as easy a time, with my resume. Like, it hasn't gotten me the kind of work it should.
Yeah.
And I feel like I get overlooked a lot, or just not even considered for things that my white counterparts are just like, yeah, you want to do this? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been like, all right, I need to have something that's mine, and that's where YouTube came in, because I was already making these figures, and I was like, people generally have questions about these anyway when I post them, so I might as well do a video about how I made it. And then that just kind of snowballed from there. And then the making the heads is sort of a natural progression of that for me, because it's like, it's a thing that I make that I can sell a small batch of. I make as many as I can on my own as one guy with a more than full-time job. And then,
Yeah.
I'm gonna work on selling those. I don't do commissions on figures for several reasons that I don't need to get into, but it's a way for me to kind of make stuff and have like a thing that I can sell that people fortunately want. And all this is to help try to build my audience so that I can say, hey, if you like comic books, in addition to these comic book characters, I got this book available. I got this new book coming out. I got this, So just trying to kind of build my own ecosystem of, if people who like what I make, they can pick and choose from a few things that I do, and, hopefully feel like supporting me because we have this sort of rapport, because I'm very interactive with people on here and stuff. And Yeah,
You
man,
are.
just trying to, climb my way up on my own too, like I said, right? Like my own bootstraps.
So, like, what's next? I mean, you got the Superman project right now. Here to do that. What about like for personal?
Sean, I'd like to correct you. That's my animated hero head. Um, it's
Oopsie. My
officially the
bad.
sculpt. Officially, the sculpt is the
Eh,
IM001 A and the IM001 B, which are made for different figure bodies, and then the IM002, which is the animated reporter head that I have made. So
Understand.
yeah, next up
I'm
I'm going to
picking.
be doing, I think,
I'm
well,
picking up
I
what you're
have
putting down.
yeah, I have some anthropomorphic reptile heroes that I've done head sculpts for that are going to be forthcoming as well.
Okay. Okay, word up. Now, as far as personal customs, for you and for that snazzy shelf behind you, who's
Mhm.
next?
Um, I've been working on a Ninja Turtles lineup, and I've done the Shredder, and I did all four Turtles: Casey Jones, Shredder, and Bebop.
Bebop.
And it's time to finally get my Rocksteady done
I
soon
was gonna
here.
say like Rocksteady, yeah. I
Yeah,
hadn't
I
seen.
couldn't find a Rhino head that would work. Like I like to try to take stuff that exists and augment it and co-opt
Hmm.
it to make it, my version of the thing. I get more joy out of that than I do 3D printing stuff.
Okay.
One, the process of 3D printing is a fucking pain, but two, it's like if I can upcycle an existing thing, if there's like a old toy I can buy secondhand that was like one of those like Safari Rhino toys or something. And if I
Hmm.
can cut the head off of that and make it into something
Oh
cooler,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I do that all
Um,
day.
in the case
What?
of this, I cannot find any good rhinos the right size. I've bought a few that I'm like, well, that was a waste of $20 or whatever. So I am just gonna find a 3D file and
Actually, I
print
might
one.
have one. I'll take a
Oh,
look and see if I still have it.
that would be super dope, man.
Yeah, it's
Thank
from
you.
an old. It's from an old McFarlane toy actually.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, let me take a look and see if I still have that. If not, I can point you in a direction I think something could work.
Good looking out, man.
Um,
Thank you.
I think that you should put on your list. You need to make a Denzel Washington equalizer.
I actually I was gonna make I have a training day one that is
Okay.
right there. um and I was going to make uh Man on Fire Denzel.
Men on Fire. Okay.
But I
What about Book of Eli?
that was actually one of my earliest customs. I made a Book of Eli figure, a NECA version.
Did I
But
see that? I
I'm
probably
sure
saw
I
it.
showed it
Yeah.
to you. It was years
Yeah.
ago.
Okay.
But what I'm gonna do is make my own Denzel sculpt that I can
Okay.
repurpose to be the different versions of him that I want.
Hmm.
By just making adding a little hair or a little bit more flesh to the face or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, Man on Fire. That's one of my favorite movies of his. Book of Eli, another one. So yeah, I bought the training day head was a pre-existing one I found online, and I bought a second one because I was going to try to make a Malcolm X out of it because of the goatee,
See, right. Yeah.
But I may end up just sculpting my own, and then at that point, I'll just make actual Malcolm X and not Denzel as Malcolm X.
Yeah.
So
You might as well do that. Yeah.
yeah,
For sure. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the channel is, I would say, is a success with 10,000 followers, but it does kind of bring me up this. We're getting towards the end here, but it's something I really want to ask and cover.
Mhm.
Like the channel seems like it is now another endeavor. It used to be a hobby. So now, what do you do when you're trying to relax? Because it can't be just this anymore.
Right.
Like, how do you chill for
Oh,
real
that's the
now?
problem I create for myself. Like drawing used to be my hobby, and then I made it my job. And then figures were my hobby. Now they're becoming a job. Um, the way that I still keep it a hobby is twofold. One, I follow the dopamine, so
Okay.
I make what I want to make, and that's a big reason. That's a big portion of why I don't take commissions, because then truly I'm just at other people's behest of what they want me to make all the time.
Yeah, that
Even
makes
I mean,
sense.
it's a little different when I'm working on my own book. That's my own thing, but it is still on a deadline. And I still have to turn it into people and get approvals and stuff. So, there'd be no time when I'm not just working. at that point, right?
Right.
So I make what I want to make, and I don't take requests, and I don't, when people go, you should, oh, do this next. I go, no, I'm like, people have wanted me to make a Splinter with my turtles for a long time. I'm like, I have zero idea how I'd make a Splinter, and I don't really have the desire to make one right now. Eventually one will come to me and I'll do it, but that's not, this, I got this,
Eventually, okay.
yeah. The other way I keep it a hobby is I will oftentimes, when I can, just make a figure that I don't record while I'm making it. I just make it. Like I made a Snake Plissken recently,
Yeah.
and that was just one I did off camera. I did a video about it after where I showcased it because if I have it, why not, right? But yeah, every now and then I'll make one that I'm like, this is not going to get views because people aren't like actively looking for Snake Plissken content all the time.
Right.
He's not really in the modern zeitgeist that much, so like that's what I'll just do for me, and then I'll do a quick video on it, and if it gets hits, whatever. If not, it's not a big deal. It all goes into the pot, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I've been doing lately, man, is I've been making time for myself to play video games again.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the way I've been doing that is I'm playing PS2 games because they're shorter, right? They're less commitment.
That's
I'm
true.
not spending $60, $70 on a game that's going to be a 40-hour job. It's like you can beat most of these in probably 4 or 5 hours. And if I chip away at them every night, for a week, I get a good,
So did you just like pull the old system out? Like, did you still have it, or did you go
No,
get like a?
because the way I grew up, like I was super poor, right? So like
Yeah.
I finally saved up enough to buy my own PlayStation 1 when I was like a teenager, right? With my job and stuff. And then the PS2 comes out and you trade in your PS1, right?
Right.
And then the next system comes out and you got to trade that one in because you don't have the money to just buy it outright and have two, right? So I traded my PS2 in when I got an Xbox 360, right?
Okay.
So I didn't keep any of that stuff. Fortunately, my wife had a backwards compatible PS3 when we met. So
Ooh.
I've been buying cheap PS2 games that to me are like, yes, like this is a come up, and to the seller it's like, yeah, $15, like because they don't have a ton of value. I mean, people have been buying older games a lot since COVID hit, like ever since, like the game market has gone crazy.
Yeah.
And I think we're all at that like 90s 30-year nostalgia era where we want that shit that we had when we were younger again, So yeah, they've been pretty easy to come by, and I've just been picking them up here and there, and that's been a nice thing to do for sure.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Okay. I can dig that. Anything in particular you're playing like today or this week that you think you're gonna try to tackle?
I've been trying to play The Incredibles, the game based on the movie, and I'm sitting there going, this game is theoretically for children, but this is the hardest video game I've ever played in my life.
No, dog.
Dude.
I don't know any video game, any Disney video game that was actually easy.
Yeah, dude. I love games based on movies because I love like the participatory experience of like being in the story of that movie that you like, So I've been getting a lot of those. Some of them aren't very good. I was also playing through that the TMNT movie, the 2007 CG movie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that one's hard as shit too. Very repetitive, but they're fun to kind of zone out. So I've been doing those. But you know what I have actually been playing on the PS4 is they made a Zorro game in the last couple years.
Oh man, if y'all don't know, this dude is a huge Zorro head.
I love Zorro. The Mask of Zorro is my favorite movie of all time, right?
Oh,
and
man.
so this Zorro game came out, and it's kind of kiddie coded, like the Zorro looks like a Pixar Zorro in it, like he was like 17-year-old Pixar Zorro or something, right?
Okay.
But the gameplay is like stealth action. Like if you ever played Tenchu Stealth Assassins.
Yeah,
it's like that with Zorro.
Weird.
Yeah, but it looks like it's for kids. It's a really wild mix, right? And instead of killing people, you like, haha, and you carve a Z on their chest, and they go like, and they tremble, and then they just. you know. So nobody's dead. They'll sit there with like the birds flying around their head or whatever. But
Okay.
it's stealth action. I mean, and you get upgrades. It feels like Ghost of Tsushima mixed with like, you know, that kind of game. It's not as sophisticated, right? But like it's very fun. You can play a stage at a time. It's not open world. It's like that's why it's more like Tenchu. It's a closed level but it's a pretty big, you know, it's a pretty game. Like you play a lot in these like, you know, sunset settings with like, you know, the stucco sort of you know, southwestern buildings and the doofy guards walking around going, huh? You know, and like you use your whip like a grappling hook, you
Oh,
know, and
I love that.
yeah.
I
It's a little
love
bit
any.
limited.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I love any like grappling hook whip effect in any
Yes.
game. To be honest,
Yes. The
yeah,
only thing is you can't jump in the game. Like there's no jumping, which is weird. But you
that
get
is
used to it.
weird.
Yeah, like you don't really need it. Like you can't climb up on stuff unless it's a designated like whip point, you know. But it
Yeah.
works. Like it works
Okay.
pretty well, you know. So that's been really fun because it's just like it's a fun game. You know, Tenchu is my favorite game of all time. So that a game like that is just second nature to me. So it's one of the few video games I'm actually like feel like I'm good at, you
Mm,
know. So I've been zoning out with that one for an hour or two, a couple nights a week, which has been good.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Eventually, I'm gonna get back to Baldur's Gate, or I'm waiting on that new Mass Effect. I'm a Mass Effect guy. You know, because they're not like super big. There's a lot of turn-based stuff elements in that, and I don't have to always be on and button mashing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, okay. So, video games. Okay, don't find a way to turn that to a job. don't do that.
I have actually I had a hand in making a video game a few years ago.
Oh
It
man.
was a little indie thing we did for a local municipality. We got hired by the city of Beaverton to make a video game that showcased their year of achievements using their
Hmm.
mascot Billy the Beaver, right? So me and two friends made this like top-down Zelda style 8-bit retro game where you're Billy the Beaver and you walk around to these different points and it tells you like here's where we broke ground on this project and we got this grant money for this. And so that was really fun. And I have a project I want to do that would have an in-world video game, like a book I want to make. And so I actually do want to make a game,
See,
just like a little playable level for people to play based on that. I think that'd be fun, you
that'd
know?
be kind of dope.
Yeah.
You know, I think I have somebody you should talk to about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I will make
Yeah,
the
man, you know,
introduction
that's
later.
part of my problem is I just like to make stuff and I like to make things like when I enjoy something, I want to know how it works. And then I sit there and I go like, I bet I could make that. And then I'm fucked. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my self-inflicted problem.
That's also how you got into basket weaving. So last question, and this is where I usually like to end the show. Like you clearly have still maintained a hobby in some form or fashion, which is good because you need that. Because the last question of the show is, how do you maintain mental stability with with everything that you're dealing with?
It's hard, man. I mean, I always just do the most. It's just kind of how I'm wired because I've never really had anybody to do anything for me, right? So like I just came up under the idea of like if you want it done, you have to do it yourself,
Okay,
you know?
but
And then
what about when you're feeling like it has to get to you sometimes? How do you recover?
I that's something that's been changing a lot. I've I've been better about, you know, for a long time I had to get the lay of the land of this job, this industry of comics and stuff, right?
Yeah,
And you say yes to things or you don't want to fumble, you don't want to drop the ball on scheduling, and you don't want to be the guy who, you know, doesn't get hired anymore because you messed up, right?
right.
Well, I found that I've done everything right and probably better than a lot of people have just because I'm an extra person like that. And it still doesn't really benefit me in that way. Like people still let me down. People still don't, you know, they still overlook me for opportunities. So I've learned that I can loosen my grip a bit and it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
So that's been a big part of it, is just knowing that like you can ease up off the gas a little bit and like it's going to be fine, because
Okay.
I've had the time to see that be the case, right? Every deadline I've ever had has not been real. It's always like, oh, we actually do have more time than we told you, or oh, we can push it back, or hey, how that book was going to come out at this time, we have to push it back because of our slate is too full, or our external factors of shipping got weird, or printing problems at the whatever, tariffs. So there's always something that shifts your timeline, and so like I've really just learned like it's going to be fine. you
Okay.
know so I've been getting better about taking weekends off. I mean, weekends off to work my side hustle of YouTube and shit, but still,
Yeah.
I have a very dear friend. My friend Mark is always talking to me about refilling my cup, you know,
Hmm.
like, and not letting other people drink from my cup too much, because I'm somebody who will do for other people in front of myself.
Yep.
And people just, not maliciously, but they take advantage of it because everybody wants somebody to do shit for them. And if you're being
A little
a
bit.
fucking, gold star good boy like me and trying to help out all the time, people will take you up on it. And then eventually you don't have any bandwidth to do your own shit. So I've been
Hmm.
more mindful of when I'm overextending myself and when I'm making myself too available to other people. Um, and yeah, I think that has been the thing that kind of get me through it. But also, honestly, work gets me through it because I have control over that to some extent, and
Okay.
that's where I feel like my identity and my value is.
Hmm.
And I think that's why I'm always doing it, because I know who I am when I'm doing that stuff. And I generally enjoy it, and I generally like who I am when I'm doing that stuff. And so, and I was raised in a very toxic way that was like, you are of value when you're being useful,
Hmm.
and really no other time. So I just have it in me. I think that's why I'm such a workaholic, is because I'm like, well, I'm useful. That's my value, you know. So I've been learning to temper that a bit, and just find my own value in my own being useful, and not the external version of it. So
I'm glad you said that because I think as I have you on the show in the future, I'd like to explore a bit of that, a little bit more as well.
sure,
Like, don't I'm not like this isn't you know therapy session program or anything like that,
sure,
but you kind of hit a key point right there. Like, I know that you're a workaholic. I,
yeah,
I've seen it, and I know we've talked extensively about what you had to come up with and what you've been up against throughout your life. But there's nothing more that I want for you to be able to know your full worth when you ain't doing nothing.
I appreciate that a lot, man. My wife says the same thing. Like, it's okay if you're not making forward momentum every moment of the day.
Yeah.
Because I'm somebody who will, like, bro, when I figured out that my microwave lets me do 30 seconds by just pressing start, I was like, that saves me like a whole 2 seconds. I could use that towards like, that's the level of, multitasking type of bullshit that I'm always on.
Yeah.
Um, and a part of that is also just like, when your grind is your own, like, I don't get to clock in and run the clock and just like
Hmm.
fart around for half a day and still get paid. Like, it's direct input to output. You know what I mean? And so that is not helpful with my natural proclivity of the usefulness type of shit.
Right.
And on top of that, like, I just have so much I want to do all the time. Like, I have so many aspirations, and
Yeah.
like,
Well, that's
yeah,
that's different. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a
Yeah.
it's a perfect storm of a lot of that, all those things.
Okay. Well, thank you for being willing to share that part with us. I mean, it is a very important part to me of this show. Like, yeah, I love to talk about comics and and dish on about like how you got into it and art and all that. But really, the point is to really get to know the people behind all of this stuff. And I wanted the Slack Pack to know a little bit more about you, my friend, who I like value outside of his work.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. It means a lot, dude.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
yeah, it's good to get to talk about this kind of stuff with each other. I mean, that's something that you and I have talked about too, just in terms of like being men and men of color, like, traditionally those groups do not share stuff like this, and they don't talk about what's wrong with them or their feelings, and like,
No, we were taught to do the opposite, and that's if we were taught anything at all. Sometimes,
right,
like if it has anything
right,
to do with mentality whatsoever.
right,
Yeah. Besides, be strong, buck up. Like there was no, yeah.
yeah,
But that's why that's why the show exists. That's why we're friends, and that's why I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. So, um, that being said, is there anything that you would like to relay to my slackers in the audience before we part ways?
just thank you for watching, and I would love it if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, checked out my videos, and if any of my books premises sound intriguing to you, there's links on my website to where you can order them. They're all available in multiple bookstores and on Amazon, and you can ask your comic book shop to order them for you. It's hard out here for independent creatives, and every time you can watch one of our videos instead of like some useless bullshit on YouTube or Instagram, or like share one of our posts instead of like hate tweeting something or
Right.
whatever, like that all just means that's something I'm trying to talk to people more about, right? Because like I told you this the other day, a friend of mine who's a musician, he was talking about how like, don't send me shit other people made, send shit I make to other people. Like you're my friend and you're just sending me garbage. Like, and I and that's honestly a challenge for me. Is a lot of people, even people I don't know, will be like sending me reels on Instagram because it's like they think that it's something I would enjoy, I guess.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, one of a dear friend of mine from high school, he was sending me all these Dragon Ball related reels.
Why?
And I was just like, one day I was like, bro, I've never seen an episode of that show in my life. And he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, dude, like, but you never were like, hey, do you like Dragon Ball? He just assumed, Meanwhile, I doubt he's sending any of my reels to anybody else. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
And it's just how we are. I get it, but it's like we need to be conscious about how we're engaging with stuff, and I that would be helpful to a lot of us. So
no, I feel that, and I can identify with that. Like, yeah, I get a lot of cat things because, like, well, but fortunately, it's from people that know I love cats. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I love cats. They send me cat things, but keep doing that. But also send my stuff to other people. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, it means they're thinking about you, right?
Yeah.
And that's amazing. Like that anyone thinks about me at all, like in a positive way throughout their day is incredible. It means the world to me. I'm super grateful for it. It's hard to try to like to be in a position where you sound like you're trying to dictate what those good thoughts would be, but it's like, could you channel it into something that actually helps me instead of like slows me down? Because if you send me something, I'm gonna want to watch it out of care for you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not being respectful of all the shit I'm trying to do. If you're thinking of me, think of me, show me that, like show people you're thinking of me by like spreading that outward instead of like, hey, this dog took a shit. Look at this,
I think that I have managed to do a healthy combination of both. Like I send all of my, I have a lot of friends in the industry and whatever. And like, I always pick with like, if they have a project, okay, these are the 15 people I know that would like this project.
Yeah.
Do it like that. Or, Ibrahim made a new toy. You're not on Facebook. So I share your stuff on Facebook all the time because I know you're not over there.
It. Yeah.
So I'd be like in the Mexico toy groups, like, yo, he made this. Bet you didn't know that.
I remember you sent me a book review that a YouTube friend of yours did.
Oh yeah.
And it was like a book you thought I would be interested in. And I was like, this is the perfect way to do that. Like you're helping that friend. You're sending me something you think I would think is cool, because really a balance is the way to go. I'm not saying don't ever send me anything. Like I don't want it to sound like that, but yeah, I mean, it's
what's about to happen though, right? Yeah, I'm just gonna find videos. I'm just gonna find I'm gonna find a dog. I'm gonna find a dog dressed like Goku taking a shit.
Super Saiyan dog shit.
Yeah. level 9,000 or whatever. No, I won't do that. Okay, so that's a great message, and I definitely can get behind that 100%. Slack Pack, in the description of this video, I will be putting several things. One, I will be putting a link to his website so that you can go take a look at some of the stuff we looked at earlier today. Then I will be putting Instagram. You can follow him on Instagram. He is on Blue Sky, and you can follow him there. But also, I will be tagging the YouTube channel, and there will also be a link to a live event that we did last week where I was a guest on his channel. You should go check that out. I'll be putting that there, and probably a couple of links to some of my favorite customs as well, and as well as some links to where you can find some of his books. Well, obviously you can find them on his website too, but for some that I know that are directly in stock, like he said, go to your comic book stores, but there will be some links that you can buy them on Amazon or even Barnes & Noble, stuff like that. Lots of information below, so pay attention to that. Then make sure to check the channel later on, because we will be doing some more sessions together. In the future, we'll have a round of 5 questions with Cerius Blaq, me, featuring Ibrahim, and we probably will do some music video reactions together at some point. So, come back and see those, and I will make sure to follow up with all of you in a later video. For now, we can go ahead and get out of here, and I can give you back your evening, and you can go play with the dog, who I know you've been thinking about.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me, man, and sharing your platform, and I appreciate everybody watching, and especially if you made it this far with us, gib-gabbing with each other. And yeah, definitely check out that live stream we did over on my channel, because we talk about how we met each other and sort of our history as friends and stuff. So I think it's a fun little trip down memory lane. And we watched it, seemed to really enjoy it, so it was a good time.
Yeah. Plus, and if you like toys, get over there.
Yeah.
So for now, I will bid y'all farewell. I will wish y'all a peace, and throw up the 2 fingers. That also means peace, and then I will say goodbye. Would you like to say goodbye?
Bye, everybody.
All right. Peace, y'all. See y'all later.